Imagine yourself standing on a stage. The audience is applauding. You've just won an award, gotten a promotion, or successfully completed a project. Everyone is impressed, except for one person. You. In your head, a completely different movie is playing. If they only knew how often I had to Google things. They only picked me up because no one else was available. That was pure luck. Next time, they will find out. Sounds familiar? Welcome to the club of secret self-saboteurs. People who are objectively successful but constantly running from the moment when everyone will see the truth. This phenomenon has a name, Imposter Syndrome. And it's exactly what's holding you back from reaching your full potential. In this video we are going to do 3 things. First, we will understand what Imposter Syndrome really is and why it affects even the most successful people. Second, we will learn to recognize the typical thought patterns that keep trapping you in this cycle. And third, and this is the most important part, we will look at how to get a handle on these thoughts and stop letting them hold you back. So if you're ready to finally get rid of this mental blocker and go through life with self-confidence instead of self-doubt, then let's dive right in. What exactly is this thing called Imposter Syndrome? The term was invented in the 1970s by Pauline Claus and Susan Imes. It describes a psychological phenomenon where people, despite clearly have success and achievements, feel like frauds. Let me give you a few examples. That tightness in your chest when you get a promotion, not from joy but from fear you won't live up to expectations. The emptiness you feel after a success because you can't truly accept it as your own. The paralyzing tension in meetings when you are too afraid to speak up, fearing it will expose your supposed incompetence. What's striking about imposter syndrome is that it often affects exactly those people who are, objectively speaking, very successful and competent. Even Tom Hanks, 2 times Oscar winner and celebrated acting legend, said in an interview, "No matter what I've done, there comes a point where you think, how did I get here? When are they going to figure out I'm a fraud and take it all away?" 3 important facts about the imposter syndrome. First, it's extremely common. Around 70% of all people experience this feeling at least once in their lives. So you're definitely not alone. Second, it's unrelated to actual success. Imposter syndrome can occur at any stage of your career, from beginner to expert. In fact, it often gets stronger the more successful you become because the perceived risk of failure increases. Third, it's not the same as low self-esteem. People with imposter syndrome often know they are good at certain things. They just don't believe they're good enough, or that their success is truly due to their own abilities. Imposter syndrome arises from a combination of perfectionist tendencies, fear of failure, and a habit of attributing success to external factors while viewing failure as a personal shortcoming. It's important to understand, imposter syndrome is not a sign of weakness. It often shows up precisely when you are stepping out of your comfort zone and taking on a new challenge. In other words, when you are growing. Technically speaking, that's not a bad thing at all, but still it just doesn't feel good. Now that we understand what imposter syndrome is and how it shows up, in the next part we will take a look at what's really going on in your mind and the typical thought patterns behind it. Imposter syndrome almost always follows the same cycle. It goes something like this. Step 1, the challenge. You are faced with a new task or challenge. Maybe it's a new project, a promotion, or simply a situation where you have to prove yourself. Step 2, doubt and fear. Immediately the doubts creep in. Can I even do this? Am I good enough? Why would I be the one competent enough to handle this? You feel that fear of being exposed. Step 3, overreaction. Now you react in one of 3 ways. Either you work like crazy, over-prepare and triple-check everything. Or the fear leads you to procrastinate and you end up doing it all at the last minute anyway. In the worst case, the fear is so overwhelming that you do nothing at all and you're right back at step 1. Step 4, success, usually. Interestingly, the cycle often ends in success, either because you worked incredibly hard or because you gave it all at the last moment. Step 5, downplaying the success. And here's the crucial part. Instead of celebrating your success, you think that was just luck. Anyone could have done that. They just didn't notice my mistakes and incompetence. Step 6, back to step 1. And so the cycle begins again. At the next challenge, the same doubts return because you didn't internalize your past success as proof of your own abilities. Do you recognize yourself in the circle? The tricky thing is that it reinforces itself. The more often you go through it, the more successful you become, the stronger that feeling of being a fraud gets. Certain situations are especially likely to trigger the imposter syndrome. New challenges or responsibilities, visibility when others see or evaluate your work, comparisons with others, feedback or criticism, even positive, success and recognition. I personally notice it most when, for example, I publish a video and it gets a lot of positive comments. Instead of being happy, I think, oh no, now people have expectations. What if the next video isn't as good? Or I ask myself, who am I to talk about these topics? I'm not a professor and I haven't spent years doing research in these fields. No matter how much I've researched the topic, I always feel like it's not enough. The problem with imposter syndrome isn't just that it makes you feel bad. It also sabotages your potential. You don't apply for the projects you are perfectly suited for. You don't share your ideas because you think they're not good enough. You stay in your comfort zone instead of growing. You don't enjoy your success and burn out faster because of it. You miss out on opportunities because you think you're not qualified. I still remember a workshop where we were brainstorming new approaches for a project. I had a pretty unusual idea that immediately popped into my head, but I swallowed it. I thought, that probably doesn't fit. What if they laugh? A few minutes later, someone suggested exactly the same idea and everyone loved it. In that moment, I realized I get in my own way far too often. In the next part, we will talk about how to break this cycle and deal with the imposter syndrome. I want to be honest with you. I primarily made this video for myself because I constantly struggle with these exact thoughts. Over the past few weeks, I spent a lot of time digging into the topic. The framework I'm about to share with you is the result of that research. I haven't had the chance to try everything myself yet, but to me, this is the approach that makes the most sense. The framework consists of 3 steps. Step 1, awareness. You can only fight what you can clearly name. Here are 2 possible ways to do that. First, keep an imposter diary. It might sound a bit nerdy, but it's incredibly effective. Every time the feeling comes up, write down what you were thinking, when it happened, and how you reacted. This helps you identify patterns, like specific situations or people that tend to trigger your self-doubt. Once you're aware of these patterns, it becomes much easier to catch those thoughts the next time. For example, you might discover that these thoughts always show up when you talk to people you perceive as more successful. Second, try the imposter alert. Give your inner critic a name. So when those thoughts show up, you can literally say, oh, Gary is talking nonsense again. And just like that, you have some distance from the thought. When I was recording a video recently and still wasn't happy with the third take, I noticed the thoughts creeping in. You're just not good at this. Others do it way better. In that moment, I literally said out loud, thanks for the input, Gary, but I'm going to keep going. It might sound silly, but it worked. I was able to laugh and move on instead of drowning in self-doubt. Step 2, reframing. Now that you know when your imposter thoughts show up, you can start to reframe them. My favorite method, imagine your best friend said those exact things about themselves. What would you say to them? Most of the time we were much more compassionate towards others than towards ourselves. If you would like, you can also start an evidence collection. Write down every success and every bit of positive feedback you've ever received. That way you will always have objective evidence ready to go when the imposter comes knocking. This shift in perspective can work wonders. Step 3. Gather experience. The more you fight your doubts by doing nothing or endlessly overthinking, the stronger they become. Action is the antidote. Start with small actions. Send the email, give the short presentation, apply for the job. Every small step gives you proof. Hey, I can actually do this. And then it's crucial to actually claim that success as your own. Don't say, oh, that was just luck. Instead, write down exactly what you did to make it work, like preparation, expertise, or strong communication. This is how you break the imposter cycle and build lasting self-confidence. So let's recap. Become aware of your thoughts, reframe them, and take small actions to collect real-life proof of your abilities. My tip: start your imposter journal today or give your inner critic a name and begin actively challenging it. You will see, just doing this one simple exercise already changes a lot. So, we've now looked at what imposter syndrome is, how it works, and how you can deal with it. Here's something important I want to leave you with. The goal isn't to get rid of imposter syndrome completely. That's unrealistic. Even the most successful people in the world still have these thoughts. The goal is to learn how to recognize those thoughts, question them, and keep going anyway. Remember, imposter syndrome often shows up precisely when you are growing and taking on new challenges. So in a way, it's actually a sign that you are on the right track. I will personally be working with this framework over the next few weeks, and I'm curious to see what happens. If you're struggling with imposter syndrome, I hope this video helped you realize you're not alone and that there are ways to manage it. Good luck, everyone.